Well, hey everybody, Dr. Ray from Chiropractic Plus. Now, right now in your seats, all right, there may be a paper, there may not, but I want to talk about a fellow by the name of Christopher Reeves. For you young folks out there, he was the Superman. He was just fit and sexy in the late 70s, early 80s. And he was the Superman in that movie. And literally, he was fit, he was strong, he was powerful, he was sexy. Now, what happened to him, however, he was riding a horse. He fell off that horse, and what happened is he broke his neck right up here. Now, what that did is that caused him to be paralyzed. Now, when we think of paralysis, we always think of muscles, right? They're stuck in a wheelchair, they don't work. Well, the challenge you've got, guys, is it's not just paralysis of the muscles. Now, remember, how does this nervous system thing work? The body is always talking to the brain is calling in the necessary resources to make things happen. So let's just say simple ambulation, walking, okay? So what are you doing? You're walking, right? Walking down the road. Well, what happens there? The brain decides, hey, I want to walk over to this spot. And what happens is that electrical message, the body calls the brain and says, okay, we're ready for this. And then the brain sends out the resources to this clean and healthy nervous system to activate the muscles to contract for ambulation, for walking. All right. That's the way it's supposed to work. But if you're paralyzed, you completely damaged or severed that nerve to those muscles and they don't activate. Now, the same thing is true of your gut, of your heart, liver, spleen, kidney. Now, how did he survive? How did Christopher Reeves survive? Considering that he broke his neck and he was paralyzed. Well, that meant his heart was paralyzed, right? Well, miracles of modern medicine. What did they use? They used a pacemaker to make his heart pump for him to circulate the blood. Makes sense, right? Now, what else did they do? Well, they had an iron lung to pump his lungs so he could get oxygen in and out of his body. And that kept him alive. And the final piece is they actually pumped baby food through his body. They actually pushed it through and caught waste in a bag. Well, again, not a great life, but it did keep him alive. But this is the part I want to really kind of stress to you is, see, the body is always rejuvenating itself. Every cell in the body has a lifespan, okay? For example, skin cells, your inside lining of your gut, they only last 24 hours. They replace themselves. Menstruals, every 30 days or 28 days, right? 28-day cycle for the endometrial lining and replenishes itself. Red blood cells last 3 months, then they're replaced and rejuvenated. And the same thing happens with your heart. Now, understand, heart cells last about a year, which is really interesting, right? They last an entire year, but then what happens is, and we'll just be silly and tell a silly story. So the heart, right? The heart's pumping down there and the brain calls down through this clean nervous system and says, and you can hear the pounding in the background, of course, being silly. Okay. Hey, what's going on down there? The brain goes, man, I'm worried about my guys. We're not generating as much pump as I'd like to see. And he goes, well, it's Charlie, Bill, and Larry. They're just not doing great. They've been working hard for about a year, but they need some relaxation, they need some rejuvenation. And so the brain says, all right, we'll send those suckers on vacation, put them in a boat, drive through the bloodstream, let's go to the spleen, and we're going to rejuvenate, we're going to rebuild and refresh these guys. So they send them to the spleen, and a process called apoptosis and autophagy occurs. What's apoptosis? Think about bubbles. Bubbles pop, 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 pop. Okay, that pop the bubbles, and autophagy means auto-eat. Okay, so the body starts eating itself up, and the consequences are rejuvenation. Those cells, they put those back in the boat after a little vacation, go back to the heart, and things start pumping. Now, why am I talking about all this crazy stuff? Well, think about this, all right? The challenge we have when we think about any type of machine, all right? Let's call it a helicopter, since it just went by, right? Now it goes through regular maintenance, it gets taken care of, but what happens is pieces start to break down. Now, what do we have to do? We have to rejuvenate that piece of equipment and constantly replacing and repairing that in order for that helicopter that just went by to keep doing its stuff. Well, interestingly enough, human beings are the same. That's this rejuvenation process through apoptosis and autophagy. But what makes that happen? See, what happened with Christopher Reeves is the neurologist who was managing his case, neurosurgeon, neurologist, I can't remember which, they said, it's interesting because he went through a process called premature aging. Because his cells could not be rejuvenated, they simply kept the machinery pumping without regular maintenance. And in no time, he died. So do you understand? See, this chiropractic thing is not just about cracking your back to make your back and neck feel better and get rid of your headaches and your numbness or whatever symptom you're manifesting. The goal is to enhance that connection between the brain and the body so the brain can activate this rejuvenation process and truly keep you young until the day you die. See, this phenomenon of aging, right? As long as we keep our body the resources that we need and the connection through this beautiful nervous system properly aligned by using corrective techniques. You take the x-ray, you do before and after x-rays to demonstrate the corrective change. That's what that paper is all about. If it's there, it's not. Please take this information and take it to heart, because how long do you want to be young, healthy, and rejuvenating? Well, forever. It's a simple answer. But everybody seems to get hung up on this symptom thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I want everybody to feel fabulous. I want you to feel great. But I want you to do it in a mechanism and strategy by which we can restore you back to optimum health. So take this information, our number one essential, knowledge and understanding. Take that information and share it and learn it and internalize it so you can understand the reason that you're walking through that door every day to get that spine checked. And that's really what we're doing. We're checking and then correcting. And my perfect day is when a patient comes in and I check them and there's nothing there. I call it empty. It's wonderful when I see an empty spine. It's like, wow, this is great. So bottom line is, let's keep rejuvenating together. Take care. Bye-bye.